There's a reason powerful people seem to ignore you, overlook you, and pass you by as if you're invisible. It's not always personal, but it is always strategic. In this video, I'll reveal the 10 hidden weaknesses most people carry unknowingly. These are habits that make high-value, powerful individuals see you as disposable, not valuable. Once you eliminate them, the world will start taking you seriously. Habit number 1. The moment you crave validation, you surrender control. Validation is a drug for the weak. It creates a dependency on how others perceive you. It turns you into a beggar for approval rather than an authority to be reckoned with. People who constantly seek praise and reassurance reveal their need to be seen, to be liked, to be acknowledged. But powerful individuals are not drawn to those who need to be seen. They're drawn to those who already see themselves as complete. There's a quiet dominance in those who do not chase attention, who walk into a room and do not flinch under silence. The world is conditioned to notice what doesn't ask for validation, but still possesses undeniable presence. You'll notice that when someone is constantly trying to impress others, laughing too hard at the jokes of someone higher up the food chain, posting their every move on social media to harvest likes, or repeating their accomplishments to anyone who will listen, they start to shrink in the eyes of powerful observers. Why? Because the need for external validation reveals a lack of internal stability. And powerful people are not attracted to instability. They avoid it like a disease. The ones who are respected are those who operate independently of applause. They don't change their posture based on whether or not they are seen. Their words aren't filtered through the question, "Will they like me?" Their tone isn't shaped by desperation. They simply state, act, move, regardless of who is watching. That's what unnerves people. That's what commands respect. You cannot be both a slave to validation and a master of perception. The moment your worth is tied to external approval, you lose leverage in every social interaction. You become manipulatable. Those in power spot this weakness instantly. They see someone who can be influenced, redirected, and controlled with praise or rejection. And so, they stop respecting you. They might smile in front of you, but they're done taking you seriously. Because when you need to be liked, you're no longer dangerous. You're no longer a threat. You're no longer a mystery. You're simply available, predictable, and forgettable. Habit number 22, reveal every emotion you feel, is to hand over the blueprint of your psyche. And when you do that, you become easy to read, easy to control, and easy to dismiss. Power doesn't respect someone who wears their heart on their sleeve. It observes, calculates, and remains unreadable. Emotional transparency may feel authentic, even virtuous, but in high-stakes environments, it is a weakness, not a strength. Those who show their every frustration, every doubt, every insecurity are silently classified by the powerful as unstable and unprepared for pressure. Powerful individuals are drawn to those who maintain emotional discipline. The man or woman who can keep a straight face while chaos unfolds around them holds the upper hand. Because in every interaction, there's a psychological battlefield occurring beneath the surface. The one who reveals less controls more. The one who conceals emotion creates uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds influence. When you express too much, especially in unpredictable ways, you allow others to forecast your reactions, to trigger you at will, to bait you emotionally. It becomes effortless to distract you, manipulate you, or disregard you based on how visibly reactive you are. Emotional transparency creates predictability. And in power dynamics, predictability is dangerous, not for your enemies, but for you. You've likely seen this in professional settings. Someone who gets visibly flustered, irritated, or overly enthusiastic at the wrong moments loses credibility. Even if they're talented, their emotions overshadow their value. Their instability becomes their identity. The powerful don't have the time to decode someone who reacts to every minor shift in energy. They prefer those who can observe silently, calculate slowly, and strike intentionally. Your emotions are sacred. They're meant to be studied in private, not performed in public. Because once you've exposed your emotional landscape, you've given away the only real mystery you possess. And mystery is what commands attention. Mystery is what gives power its edge. Once lost, it cannot be regained easily. You must become the type of person who feels everything and shows nothing. The type whose silence feels louder than another's breakdown. The kind of presence that makes people wonder what you're thinking, instead of knowing exactly how you feel. Habit number 30. There is a silent rule in the world of power: the more you speak, the less you're heard. People who talk excessively reveal their thoughts, their plans, their fears, their doubts, all in the span of casual conversation. Every word you spill is a clue, a leak, a crack in your armor. And the ones listening, the ones who matter, aren't listening to admire you. They're listening to calculate. They're measuring your mind, your predictability, your strength. And the moment they conclude you talk without direction, they start tuning you out. Powerful people ignore noise. They only respond to signal. The habit of talking too much isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. It reveals impatience, lack of control, and a desperate need to fill silence, which is often mistaken as a weakness. People don't realize that silence is not uncomfortable for the powerful. It's a weapon. They use it to dominate rooms, to force others into revealing themselves, to manipulate time and tension. But the one who cannot stand silence will always lose, because that person will speak just to feel in control. And in doing so, they give up control. When you speak, every word should be intentional. Words should be used like arrows, not confetti. Each sentence should carry weight, not just volume. When you speak too often and say too little, you cheapen your voice. You become a background sound, not a commanding presence. There's no impact in a river of words with no direction. The powerful are drawn to those who pause before speaking, who think before responding, who are comfortable with silence because they are confident in their power. Consider this: the ones who speak the least are often the ones people listen to the most. Why? Because silence builds anticipation. It makes people wonder what you're thinking. It creates space for others to project power onto you. When you only speak when necessary, and when what you say is sharp, clear, and calculated, you shift the dynamic. You stop chasing attention and start commanding it. Talking less doesn't make you less visible. It makes every word you say more valuable, and value is the currency of influence. The moment your words become rare, they start to matter. Habit number 40. There is no strength in perpetual peace. People who run from confrontation are not seen as kind. They are seen as vulnerable. The inability to stand in the fire and face opposition reveals a deep fracture in character. When you avoid conflict at all costs, you send a silent message to the world: you are willing to compromise your position, your values, even your dignity, just to avoid discomfort. And powerful people do not engage with those who cannot endure friction. They see conflict not as a threat, but as a test, and those who fear it are instantly disqualified from the game of influence. Conflict is not chaos, it is control. It is where true intentions surface, where respect is forged or lost. The one who can look another in the eye, disagree without hesitation, defend a position without apology, and endure the tension without backing down is the one who earns respect. Not because they're aggressive, but because they are unshaken. The world quietly admires those who are willing to be disliked in order to remain unbent. When you constantly choose the path of least resistance, you begin to disappear in the eyes of the dominant. They no longer expect you to push back. They no longer consider your opinion because they know you will default to silence. You become invisible, not because you lack value, but because you refuse to assert it. Every time you dodge a confrontation to keep the peace, you trade long-term influence for short-term comfort. True strength is not in dominating others, in refusing to be dominated. You don't need to attack to be powerful, but you must be able to defend. You must show that you are not a territory to be invaded without consequence. Conflict is where boundaries are drawn. It is where people decide whether or not you're someone they can control. Those who can calmly and intelligently hold their ground are rare, and they are noticed. Not because they shout the loudest, but because they don't flinch when others do. They do not escalate, but they do not retreat. Their stillness becomes their intimidation. Their presence becomes unshakable because it is not conditioned on agreement or comfort. It is built on the certainty that they are not afraid of war if peace demands their silence. Habit number 50. There is a distinct difference between humility and submission. Apologizing for mistakes is one thing, but when a person apologizes, constantly saying sorry, For their opinions, their presence, their voice, their decisions. They don't appear polite, they appear powerless. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your authority. It tells others you are unsure of your place in the world. It suggests that you believe your existence is somehow an inconvenience. And the powerful instinctively distance themselves from those who radiate self-doubt. The reflex to apologize excessively doesn't come from courtesy. It comes from a fear of rejection. It's a survival mechanism for those who have internalized the belief that their value is always in question. So they try to soften their impact. They try to avoid stepping on toes. But in doing so, they step on their own credibility. High-value individuals don't apologize for having standards, opinions, or boundaries. They speak, act, and move with quiet certainty without the need for constant reassurance that they're allowed to. Apologizing too much weakens your voice. It frames your communication in self-erasure. You enter rooms already assuming you're a problem that needs to be tolerated rather than a presence that needs to be acknowledged. And this shapes how people treat you. If you speak like you're already guilty, you'll be treated like someone who's always in the wrong. If you move like you're trying not to take up space, you'll be walked over without hesitation. In a world governed by power and perception, your body language, your tone, your choice of words, all signal either strength or softness. An excessive apology screams softness. Even in relationships, over-apologizing shifts the balance of power. It hands the emotional advantage to the other person. They begin to see you not as an equal, as someone easily swayed, easily guilted, easily dominated. People stop taking you seriously when you present yourself as someone who constantly seeks forgiveness for simply existing. Confidence, even in silence, communicates value. Apologizing too much communicates fragility, and no one seeks to build alliances, partnerships, or respect around fragility. Those who lead with excessive remorse become forgettable, not because they lack worth, but because they're too afraid to assert it. Habit number 6C. The moment you begin to over-explain your actions, your thoughts, or your choices, you are silently signaling insecurity. Powerful people do not justify, they declare. They do not seek permission through explanation, they operate from conviction. When someone feels compelled to give lengthy reasons for every decision, it reveals a hidden fear, the fear of judgment, of disapproval, of not being understood. But in the realm of power, the more you try to be understood, the less you are respected. Over-explaining is an unconscious attempt to protect oneself from being questioned. It comes from a place of wanting to be liked, of trying to prevent conflict or criticism. But the irony is, the more you explain, the more you invite doubt. You open the door to scrutiny that might never have existed if you had simply stated your position with brevity and certainty. The powerful understand that silence often speaks louder than explanation. A simple, "because I decided so," has more authority than a 5-minute justification. When you over-explain, you give others the impression that you don't fully believe in what you're saying, that you're still convincing yourself. And people do not follow the uncertain. They follow those who move without hesitation. Your words should not be a constant defense, because when you defend every move, you put yourself on trial without being asked. You train others to question you. You teach them that your decisions require their approval. And once they feel that authority, they will use it. There's a sharp distinction between clarity and over-explanation. Clarity is concise. It provides the necessary information and nothing more. It respects both your intelligence and theirs. But over-explaining is verbal insecurity. It dilutes your message. It weakens your posture. It tells the listener that your confidence can be cracked open and examined. And once you open that door, you no longer control the narrative. The powerful speak with finality. They understand that explanation is a tool, not a crutch. If used too often, it transforms from a means of communication into a confession of self-doubt. Power remains with those who are unapologetically precise, not those who need to be endlessly understood. Habit number 70. Scarcity creates value. This is not just an economic principle. It's a psychological law. The more available you are, the more people unconsciously believe they can afford to ignore you. When you make yourself constantly accessible, when you answer every message instantly, when you always say yes to every request, you dilute your presence. You signal that your time, your energy, and your attention come cheap. And anything that comes cheap is never respected for long. Powerful people are not drawn to what is easy to reach. They are drawn to what commands effort, attention, and discretion. Being too eager to help, to please, to accommodate may feel noble. But to the strategic eye, it reeks of desperation. It communicates that your value is not self-sustaining, that it depends on being liked, needed, or approved by others. And the moment someone detects that you're more concerned with being chosen than choosing, they know they have leverage over you. They know you'll overextend, overcommit, and overperform just to stay in their orbit. And they begin to treat you accordingly. Availability must be managed like a weapon. The more you control access to yourself, the more people begin to wonder what you're doing, where your focus is, why you are not chasing them. That mystery builds respect. It creates space for others to realize your value without you needing to spell it out. Your time becomes a privilege, not an expectation. Your presence becomes an asset, not a default. And that shift changes the way people speak to you, the way they listen to you, and the way they move around you. Eagerness, when unrestrained, makes you predictable. Predictable people are easy to categorize, easy to take for granted, and easy to forget. But those who are disciplined in their time and intentional with their presence cultivate power without ever having to ask for it. They walk into rooms already valued because they are not constantly available. They do not need to perform generosity to earn attention. Their absence makes people curious. Their distance becomes a mirror, forcing others to reflect on what they're missing rather than what they're being offered too freely. Influence is not about being everywhere. It's about being missed when you're not there. Habit number 80. Nothing repels power faster than a person without a clear direction. When you drift through life aimlessly, waiting for opportunity to find you, you become invisible to those who lead, build, and dominate. Powerful people are not drawn to potential. They are drawn to purpose. They are drawn to those who walk with intent, who know exactly where they're going and why. Purpose is magnetic. It creates an aura of certainty that even the most powerful silently respect. But without it, you are just another face in the crowd, moving with the tide, easily influenced, and even more easily forgotten. People without direction often find themselves orbiting around others who have it. They become passengers in someone else's vision, assistants in someone else's empire. And while they may be tolerated, they are never truly respected, because respect is not given to those who float. It is given to those who move with force. It doesn't matter if your path is unconventional or your goals are private. What matters is that you move like someone who has already chosen. That energy alone separates you from the masses. Those who lack purpose often compensate with distractions. They chase trends, mimic others, and shift personalities depending on the room they're in. They become shapeshifters, not out of strategy, but out of confusion. And the powerful can smell that confusion. It signals that you have no inner structure, no long-term plan, and no self-defined compass. To them, you are noise. And noise is ignored. Purpose gives weight to your presence. It makes your actions more meaningful, your words more impactful, and your silence more intense. It creates an internal fire that requires no validation because it burns regardless of who is watching. People sense it in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you prioritize. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth when you move with direction. It becomes obvious. But without that foundation, every interaction becomes reactive, every relationship becomes unbalanced, and every opportunity feels like a favor rather than an earned alignment. Direction is not optional. It is the invisible backbone of presence, the unspoken authority that separates leaders from followers, strategists from drifters, and valuable players from disposable ones. Habit number 90. Admiration is not the same as submission. When you show excessive awe toward others, especially those who hold more power, fame, or influence, you reveal a silent inferiority complex. The moment you place someone on a pedestal, you place yourself beneath them. And this dynamic doesn't go unnoticed. The powerful are not drawn to those who flatter them. They are drawn to those who stand beside them without shrinking. When you're easily impressed, you send a signal. You don't see yourself as worthy of the same respect you're giving. That signal changes everything about how you're treated. People who become starstruck tend to exaggerate others' value while minimizing their own. They lose composure in the presence of perceived greatness. They laugh too hard, agree too quickly, and not even when they don't fully understand. This behavior doesn't inspire closeness. It creates distance. It tells the other person that you're not an equal, but an admirer. And admiration, when unbalanced, becomes a wall rather than a bridge. Interaction in the hierarchy. You become the fan, not the peer, not the competitor, not even the ally, just someone lucky to be in the room. Confidence does not mean arrogance. It means neutrality. You see others clearly, not through the lens of fear or idolization, but through the lens of clarity. You recognize skill, beauty, intelligence, wealth, but you do not collapse in front of it. You respect others' success without surrendering your own power. You do not bow mentally, emotionally, or socially. This neutrality unsettles people who are used to being worshipped, and that disruption earns a different kind of respect. You become someone who doesn't chase proximity for validation. You become someone who understands their own worth deeply enough to sit at any table without feeling smaller. Those who hold real influence can immediately detect who sees them as superior. And once they sense that imbalance, they never engage with you seriously. To them, you're not a player. You're an audience member. You're not competition. You're a consumer of their aura. They may keep you around to feed their ego, but they will never bring you into their circle of real strategy and decision-making. Because to be truly respected by the powerful, you must first stop being impressed by them. Habit number 2 in the world is not designed to be fair. It is designed to reward those who understand how it works. The obsession with fairness is a fantasy that keeps people weak, compliant, and constantly disappointed. Those who expect life to be fair are the ones who spend their lives resenting those who win, instead of studying how they win. Fairness is a child's lens. Power operates by a different code. It doesn't care who deserves it. It flows toward those who can claim it, command it, and sustain it. And the more you demand fairness from others, the more you reveal that you are not prepared to compete on the field where real games are played. Powerful people do not talk about fairness. They talk about leverage. They talk about positioning. They talk about control, timing, and perception. Fairness doesn't enter the equation, not because they are evil or cold, but because they know that the world bends to influence, not innocence. Those who wait for the world to become fair will be waiting forever. Those who study how power flows will learn how to redirect it toward themselves. That is the difference between those who rise and those who remain bitter. When you believe in fairness too deeply, you become predictable. You assume others will behave as you would. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You extend trust before it is earned, and you enter negotiations expecting equal treatment. That mindset makes you vulnerable. It blinds you to manipulation. It makes you slow to react when betrayal arrives, because you're still trying to rationalize it through the lens of fairness. But the ones who understand power are not surprised by inequality. They expect it. And because they expect it, they prepare for it, adapt to it, and use it to their advantage. Power is not interested in who should win. It focuses on who is willing to do what it takes. It studies who can remain composed under pressure, who can move silently, who can strike without warning. Fairness will keep you moral, it won't keep you powerful. Power respects strategy. It respects foresight, discipline, and the refusal to play by rules that others can break without consequence. When you stop expecting fairness, you start focusing on what works, and that shift is what separates those who influence from those who plead. The world does not overlook you without reason. It observes, it measures, calculates, and when powerful individuals decide to ignore you, it is rarely a random act. It's a strategic dismissal. Every weak habit you allow to remain in your character becomes a silent signal to those who dominate. This person is not a threat, not a leader, not someone worth investing energy in. The desire for validation, emotional exposure, excessive words, fear of conflict, over-apologizing, compulsive explaining, constant availability, lack of direction, idolizing others, and blind faith in fairness. These are not harmless traits. They are self-inflicted invisibility. Power respects control. Power respects restraint. Power respects presence that is unbothered, unrateable, and untouchable. If you continue to operate with the mindset of the average, you will continue to be treated as such. But the moment you strip away these 10 habits, the dynamic changes. You don't need to ask for respect. It begins to form around you. You don't need to chase influence. It starts to chase you. The most dangerous people in any room are not the loudest, not the most liked, and not the most emotional. They are the ones you cannot figure out, cannot push, cannot control. Become that person. Let your silence be strategic. Let your words be scarce and sharp. Let your presence feel earned, not granted. Let your emotions be sacred, not displayed. Stop offering yourself to people who have not earned access to your world. The shift from being ignored to being noticed begins with subtraction, not addition. Remove weakness, remove exposure, remove need, and what remains will be gravity. The kind that bends the room without saying a word.